True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm your host. I'm Jen Coffindaffer. I am very excited about this show, and I'll tell you why. So often we talk about things and discuss theories and talk about the facts, for instance, in the Nancy Guthrie case. And by the way, for those of you wondering, because you see me in blue, and I had this around my neck, but it was just absolutely strangling me. So I do have my yellow, trying to figure out, I should have put it in my hair, um, more yellow to wear without wearing a sweater because I'm dying. It's getting hot now. But nevertheless, I just wanted to say today we're going to be discussing Nancy Guthrie. Specifically, as you all know, she went missing on the 1st of February in the wee hours of the morning. And we know a lot, actually. We know a lot because of the video footage that Kash Patel released on his X. And we also know a lot from all the photos that were released. And we know a lot from information provided by sources. I always say there's three categories: what we can see with our own eyes, what we know to be facts. Then there's the category typically of law enforcement that you can hang your hat on. In this case, a lot of people don't feel like we can hang our hats on what the Pima County Sheriff Nanos says, but nevertheless, we have a lot of information from him. We also have a lot of information from Savannah Guthrie that I also believe is very believable and something we can rely on. And then finally, we have information from sources. Again, you guys know how I feel about sources. You just have to double check on them because you're looking at their motives. Are their motives political? Are their motives pure? When it comes to law enforcement is what I'm really talking about, not whistleblowers per se, but law enforcement, talking about law enforcement evidence and information. And are these sources all the same for everyone? Is it the same? Are they the same people coming forth to News Nation and to Fox and to the local, or I'm sorry, and to the streamers? Is it all really the same guy or two people? I kind of think it is. But nevertheless, I want to get up on stage here, Gray Hughes. And this is the thing that Gray does so well. He animates what we all talk about, what we hypothesize about. I like his videos because I can visually see on a screen what is in my brain. And so I want to bring him forward. We are going to talk about some of the videos and incorporate sort of the imagery that he has, which is great because he takes shots from Google Earth. He utilizes cars. He utilizes different visuals so that as we discuss and as I explain, at least from what we know, where things are, hopefully for you all, you can get a visualization as to what we've been discussing. All right. Here we go. Bringing you up on the stage. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome
Thanks.
to our platform.
Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it looks like you have a bow tie here. See, I'm teasing
Yeah,
him already,
yeah.
but I have
It's
found out that is just the redness of his collar.
the
So,
Oregon State Beavers shirt, and it has, for some reason, if you don't button it all the way up to here, it looks like you got a bow tie on. Okay, so
great.
there you go.
You know what? Another thing I want to mention that I really like about you, Gray, is that we are both brick and mortar. I'm going to call us brick and mortar people. We are not big into conspiracies. It has to be facts that we can see and put together that make sense before we come forward with some sort of theory or hypothesis. So I appreciate that you use imagery to explain and support your positions.
Yeah, it's. I think it's really valuable, especially mapping in cases. A lot of times people just throw that aside and they just talk about various things, but putting together the locations and the timing of different things is really, I think it's really important for the overall picture, and you can actually figure things out that may have happened by using the mapping and a timeline, etc.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And, we talked about quote unquote the uniqueness of your name. And I told you, geez, I have an uncle named Gray and a friend named Gray. And I like
Yeah.
the name Gray. So it's a cool name. I thought it was mainly a Midwest name, but you're not from the Midwest, are you, Gray?
No, well, my dad was, I think he was born in Ohio, my biological father. But I was born in Los Angeles.
Gray, were you adopted?
No, no.
Okay, I was adopted, and I was going to say, wow, you were adopted when you said bio father, because I sometimes.
Well, he kind of he just well not to get too late, but he left us when we were kids, and I have a stepdad that I call dad. I don't call that, and he was a great artist, my biological father, but he died like in 1992, so it's been a long time.
I
Yeah,
see.
he wasn't a great dad, so I don't sit there and go, oh God, and mourn. It's just he sucked.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, there
Yeah,
you go, guys. We're going to start off a little raw here. You know,
yeah,
I always say, though, people in the true crime community, this has just been my experience. I think a lot of people in the true crime community have deep, rich backstories of things like that. Things just like you say. I always say about Nancy Grace, people either love her or they don't like her. She's polarizing. But she comes from a place of a lot of pain that even got her into becoming a lawyer. When she lost her boyfriend that she loved. He was viciously murdered, and that propelled her. Most people know my story of being attacked when I was young. It seems like just a lot of people, I think, in the true crime community have backstories that they can relate to a lot of this with. But enough about us, Gray. We're going to have to move on uh,
yeah,
to the situation at hand. And I'm going to go ahead and add on one of your graphics here. Gray has provided a huge majority of these graphics. We're going to use his graphics because he can do some pretty cool things. So we wanted to
yeah.
get into specifically, well, first of all, tell us about this graphic, and then we'll kind of walk through, I think, what pretty much we both are on the same page about.
Yeah, I mean, this was an animation that I made a while ago where it's just I use a sphere as the person, and then just a random SUV, and I have it parked. Let's see, I'll show you exactly on Google Earth map here, right here. It's just kind of a random spot, but it was a spot that I saw that it looked really, when you look at it, I mean, look at that. It's hidden on that side, and this side. Even the people living there can't see you there. And it's not on the main street, so it's a good place that you could have just parked, like maybe right over there. And that's what we have here, and that's where that location is. And then as soon as I'll just play it at regular speed. So let's say he was a solo person, let's say, okay, in that scenario. That's the only video animation that I made. He's a solo person. He maybe comes down the street, and then around 147 or so, goes up to the front door and disables the camera because he knows eventually he's going to be parking a car there to take Nancy Guthrie out of the house. So
Great.
then after, yeah,
Wait 1 second. We're going to do this in slow mo because this
okay,
is interesting to me. So
okay,
I want everybody to really see if you can back it off again and give everybody a huge perspective of this neighborhood because
oh yeah,
for my audience, even though a lot of my audience may watch graphics and things, this is something that I don't use typically. I talk a lot about it and I don't use it. So let's set up where we can see, and you can with your cursor. Right, that's Nancy's house right there that your
yeah.
cursor.
That's Nancy's house,
Okay.
and then
Can
right
I
over
can
here,
I point out this really quick? I want everybody to see the distance between these houses that we've been talking about and the amount of these huge bushes and shrubbery and everything that is encapsulates these homes and makes them so secluded. So I just want everybody to see that. Ray, now can you pan out and show the labyrinth of roads that go in and out? There's not just one way to get to our neighborhood. See this?
yeah.
This is insane.
Yeah, but the houses are closer than it looks when you're on the ground. When you're on the ground down there, you can't. They did it intentionally. They made it so that you feel like you have your own land. I mean, you do, but like, look at this. You can't see a soul. I mean, maybe the top of a house here and there. But when you're moving down here, you really can't see anybody, even though you're not tremendously far away from each other. It's not packed in like sardines, where we see places in California or, like Los Angeles, you're right next door to the other person. I mean, that's not tremendously far, right? But you can't even see that they're there when you're there. It's pretty wild.
Well, that's the thing that I wanted to point out to everybody. And I like that other graphic that you use. When you are driving, going through this neighborhood, everything is very difficult to see. And it's times 100 at night. One of the streamers was out there and showed how when the lights were off, it's pure black.
Yeah, pitch black. Yeah.
Pitch black there. And I've talked about how you can't see really very far at all in front of you because I lived in one of these neighborhoods. For everybody who does not know, these are neighborhoods that actually are, you're not allowed to have any lights on. It's a no light pollution zone. And,
Exactly.
and it goes for miles. And you can see there's no street lamps.
Yeah, no street lights, and the way you have your lights on your home have to be a specific way so that it doesn't put ambient light out. And I mean, this is a nightmare scenario for surveillance camera, like where law enforcement goes out and collects surveillance footage. This is like the worst case scenario where every house is offset from the road, right? You got trees blocking pretty much the streets, and so it's good for capturing the person next to your house. But law enforcement needs to track a vehicle back and figure out and see the vehicle. And it just seems like, man, they might have some footage somewhere where they see the lights through the trees. If it's a 24/7 camera, you can see it through the trees, and they know it kind of went over there and over here. But maybe it's hard for them to determine the make and model. Or maybe they have a feeling of the make and model, and that's why they pulled over those couple individuals early on, because it sort of matched what they had seen. What do you think about that?
I think that's 100% why those individuals were looked into. I think it was a see something, say something situation, and somebody that knew them described their situation right. Both of them were having issues, right? One of them had just lost their house. They moved in with their mom. They were a driver. So that made it possible for them to be involved, I guess, in terms of timing, them having time, not working and so on. And then the other one, had other issues, some criminal issues. So you added that together and people called it in and the Bureau acted on it. So it made a lot of sense. Have you
Yeah.
seen this map? And I'm sorry if anybody's hearing clicking. I need to get an external mic, which I still don't have one that works well. Have you seen that map that shows the way out of the neighborhood, or have you ever made your own? Here it is.
To go over to like Annie's home, maybe, or
No, this is the map I'm talking about. So essentially,
no,
you
I've seen that. Yeah.
you could start and go all the way through, and other than I think I counted 3 street lights. That's it in a 20-mile, 21 minutes, 7 miles. 2 or 3 streetlights. So if you turned off your headlamps and went on this way, you would be virtually unseeable. So you could easily exit the neighborhood. Gray, did you do anything like that?
I just went around the neighborhood right there and on different streets, and you never see any street lights or anything around her neighborhood. I think I did something where I had different routes from her house over to like Annie's house, how to get there. I don't have them on the screen right now, but I think I'd have to turn them back on. Then I drew this route here where, remember those gloves that were found? And then that other surveillance, it was kind of interesting, that surveillance that they had where, well, like when you come out right in this area and you go south, those are where a couple of gloves were found. But I'm not even sure, man. They found so many gloves out there. What is this guy running around with a bucket of gloves, just chucking them out? I mean, they seem like they found gloves that they thought were very similar, and then it led back to a Mexican restaurant and an individual there because they must have got the DNA. And then after that, Then they went back. Remember how they went back to the same Mexican restaurant later, looking
Well,
around? It's
yeah,
interesting.
sure did. So my belief is they went back and I did a show on this. They went back to all of their haunts. Every place that Nancy frequented, whether that's her nail salon shop, whether that's the Mexican restaurant, all her places that she remember she's lived here since 1979, I believe. So that's a long time to be developed and established. So the FBI, one of the things that they have to do is canvass every place that she frequented. So it made sense to me. But Gray, do you remember? And I'm going to bring this glove up. Okay, let me make sure this comes up here. Um, and sorry, I'm showing it from this vantage, but I took this off my Twitter. But this glove is the one, Gray, I think you're talking about. But Sheriff Nanos, I believe, said, remember there were 16 gloves found.
Hmm.
And I was hoping, I hope you could put that graphic back up that you had that showed kind of some of the places that they were found. What
Oh
did
yeah,
you say, 1975? I thought it was 1979 for 89,000, but it could be 1975 for 89,000. Nevertheless, it was in the mid to late 70s she bought that house. So she's owned it for decades. But
yeah,
this is the glove that they said matched the general parameters of Porch Guy's glove. So,
yeah. And then but the two spots that were in the news were like right over here,
oh, sorry, let
which
me pull you up.
yeah, it's kind of like close. Like I mean, here's Nancy's home. So if you came out, turned right, took the
Sorry.
first right, like you came out of her home, took the first right, and then right again. And then you to get to this road, you could either go way back over here, but I think it's more logical to go here and then this direction and then straight down this way. There was two gloves, so it sort of kind of almost made sense where the locations were, but I'm not sure if I wonder what their belief is inside if they think one of the gloves is from the person. But it seems like they would have already got DNA and it hasn't led anywhere.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, the gloves were, and can you trace that again while I'm talking about this? Just go to where Nancy's house is, and then I find
Yeah,
this
I
fascinating,
mean, I could
everybody.
just go like this, and then around over here, and then the quickest way would have been to go over this direction, then to this main road, and then down this way. And then there's a glove that was found right there, and I took took a while, but I did the effort, found the bushes and everything that matched up where the gloves were, and then even this one right here is exactly where the another glove was found. And then what that means to the case now, I don't know. But
Well, I think just from an investigative standpoint, look, I've seen everything thrown out of cars. They've thrown guns out of cars, knives out of cars, jackets out of cars, gloves out of cars. So this wasn't something that necessarily would surprise me. This is the problem. Way too far away, not the MO of this very careful predator. That's my opinion. I don't think any of these gloves have anything to do with anything, but it was something that they had to look into. I still think the restaurant glove, I believe Nano said, was not even the glove that was in question that the New York Post was on scene for and took a picture of. That's why we have it, that matched similar characteristics. I think it was actually another one, Gray, that everybody was saying it was that glove, but I think it was confused with one of the other 16, the restaurant worker, I mean. Um, but nevertheless, I don't think these gloves are going to ferret out. What do you think?
I don't. I don't think. I mean, I just don't think that they're going to end up being something connected. It just seems ludicrous to me. The guy is so careful with the balaclava and all this stuff, and he's going to drive around and go, "Hey, hey, I'm a quarter mile away," and just chuck the gloves out the window. That just seems really. That's just not happening. I actually think, when I look at some of if you want to, we can do the thing where we look at some of this footage here because I can zoom in and stuff like that. Um, when he comes around and does the the part with the weeds, I actually think he bends it into like an arc to then try to pull it off, because these gloves here are probably pretty thin in reality. And he doesn't want to, when he was trying to pry it off originally, he probably didn't want to rip his glove that he was going to use, maybe. And maybe he was just using, like, kind of going like this and then going to try to pull it off that way without affecting his gloves. Because he tried to do it with his glove first, and then he, maybe he was trying to get it behind it so he could just yank it off. I don't know if he was really trying to balance it on there to block. See, a lot of people have said that the fact that he tried to put it on there to block the view, like maybe, one of these shots like that, right? It's blocking the view. So he's really dumb. He shows up and he's just this really dumb guy. And yet we still have no clue who this person is. And so what if we remove the dumbness from it and say that he knew he was going to go there and remove the camera. He goes up and he tries to pull it off and goes, let me just get something else to pull it off. Boom, the camera's gone. He did exactly what he wanted to do. But when we go, oh, look how dumb he is because he's blocking the camera, now we're sort of, it's almost a red herring kind of thing where we start thinking he's really stupid and didn't know what he was doing. What do you think of that?
I'm convinced he wasn't blocking the camera. You want to run that footage again? I'm convinced, and I've talked about this before, that he used that to grip. And you can tell because on this shot, he had that. So if he just would have been blocking the camera, you wouldn't see the foliage. And I don't think it was weeds. I think it's actually this ivy, like a lantana type ivy. I have a lot of pictures and a lot of video from when Annie and Savannah were very young. And when they were very young, they used to play there. And it's crazy to see these flower beds used for such joy. And then, he grabs this and uses it. But this wouldn't be stuck in here if he wasn't forcefully, to me, making contact with this mechanism. So you and I agree again that this is not about using it to obscure, and it wasn't used to, try to play, to confuse people. It was literally used to try to get a grasp. I think he's double gloved. What do you think about my philosophy with that?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It makes sense because then you can take one off and then have a clean pair to do other things later to continue to not transfer DNA or something like that. And it looks kind of thick too. It's possible. Like right here, it's weird. I remember originally thinking he was reaching under to try to open the door, but the doorknobs are down here, so he's not touching the doorknob. His hand's actually underneath the camera right there. He's just trying to pinch it or something. And then this hand, right when you see the darkness on the glove, like let's go back right here. See that little weird mark right there? That's actually his glove touching the glass of the camera itself. Like these little, like right even in there. See this little thing like that when it gets like that? I think that's when it's actually touching the glass itself, and then you can kind of move forward. I mean, and I don't know. I can just tell you, there's some moments where it's totally black, and then sometimes it's really light there. We've had people say that there was this, like another person or something off to the right, or a cell phone over there in one of the shots. You ever seen that one? Where people claim that, let's see, where was that? I think it's right after he's doing this part. Right there. See this really bright spot over here on the right?
Yep.
People have claimed that that's like a cell phone, but it's really just part of the plant. It's like, look, see how it moves with the upper plant and on the right there? So it comes down. It looks really bright, but now look at it's not bright now. The reason it looked really bright is because it's really close to that. And look how bright the plant is over here. That's the same brightness. See that? This and that are exactly the same. This looks brighter because it's surrounded by darkness. So it's exactly the same. This here and this are both touching, and look right there. That means it's touching the glass, the glove, and I've just, if there's still people out there that think that's a cell phone, I'm just kind of going in the weeds on something like that. It really is just part of the plant. See how it moves with the plant there, like back and forth. And it looks really bright, that's because it's right next to the camera, and the infrared or whatever you call it is just blowing it out. And then there's even similar, like again, right here. See how it's bright on both sides?
No, I totally agree, and I think everybody can see how that's part of the plant. And the light plays so many games with your eyes, especially in the dark like this,
Mm-hmm.
because it's where the light is the brightest, surrounded by darkness. As you said, it comes off as a glow.
But look right here, I think is when he bends it into like an arc. Watch. See that? It's kind of like you turn it like that, and then there's this thick, and maybe he's using that to pry it off. Is that? I mean, that's what you think too. Put it behind it and just pull it, or something.
I think the glove, because he was double gloved, if you can go back and show how bulky and crazy this glove is, because of this double gloved, I think he was literally couldn't get it. I know a lot of people, and I agree about nitrile gloves, that normally they're very sticky and tacky, but not when a glove is over top. It's problematic.
Yeah, so it's thick there.
Yeah. So I think that that's an issue. Can you go back to the doorknob? Because I know I was one that initially thought he reached down with his left
I
hand,
did too. I did too. I thought it was a doorknob, but it wasn't.
but I
See,
agree now. I mean, not because of this video. I actually have a whole thing I want to do on this to show new revelations about some of this. And I agree with you. See, that's where I always thought he was grabbing the doorknob.
yeah,
But
but it's over here. Yeah, so it's weird. I thought that too.
yeah,
I thought he was trying to turn it and do something, but then what? How would he be trying to turn a doorknob with? It didn't even make sense technically. But that's what it looks like. His hand is trying to rotate the doorknob, right?
that's
But
what I thought.
it's really just kind of like underneath the camera. He's trying to get it off there.
Well, and I wanted to tell everybody, I don't know how many of you know what I mean when I say a sympathetic response. And the reason, do you know what I'm talking about, Gray?
Um,
This isn't
by
a quiz show or anything, but
well, what are you referring to? I mean,
so
I've heard it in psychology and stuff like that.
no, actually not psychology or anything like that. A sympathetic response, and the reason I know this is as a firearms instructor, we have a lot of accidental discharges whenever you're on a range. Not a lot, hopefully, with FBI agents and so forth, but I teach a lot of other types of classes. Nevertheless, one of the biggest things I always teach is a sympathetic response, and that is whatever your right hand is meaning to do, like I'm grabbing my cell phone, your
Hmm.
left hand is doing the exact same response to a lesser degree. So a lot of people, as an example, they will be grabbing at something, accidentally have their finger on the trigger, and even though they're not meaning to pull the trigger, they pull the trigger because their left hand is, or right hand, whatever one isn't on the trigger, is doing something. There's a sympathetic response. So I was thinking maybe this could be a sympathetic response to the motion his other hand is doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then there's something I'm going to point out here. He's coming from the left here. So if you go to the very first frame, he then turns in. See this? So he is coming around from the side of the house that has the garage door on it. Just there. He could have just, walked 5 feet over and then turned. We don't know. It doesn't mean that he was all the way around the house. It means that he didn't come in, exactly the way I have it in that sphere. He's coming in from the side over here, and
Agree.
he kind of has his head ducked down, and then there's two clips that they put out. So there's this one, and then they put out one. He's like, oh, right there. But you know what? That's actually within a half second of each other, because if you look at his right foot right there, and then boom, it doesn't move at all. So that means that those two clips are literally back to back. I mean, maybe it rode over like a half second. And so right there, that's literally a half second later. So there was a different clip that they put out, but I just want to let people know that those are all just, you're only missing about a half second. However long it would take his left foot to go from there to there. And then he goes around, and now he does the whole thing with the camera.
And one of the things, to go back a little bit to the shoes, I still don't know why they haven't released his shoe size. They obviously know it. I don't know whether those, what he's stepping on are 12 by 12s, 8 by 8s,
I think they're 10 by 10.
or 10 by 10s, but
Yeah.
it's easy to measure those and know
Well,
they know exactly his shoe size. I can tell you
let's
that.
see. Let's see.
Size.
What shoe size is 10 inches? Let's see. He looks like men's, it's only like 7.5 to 8. And
Yep.
if you look at that picture right there, I mean, hell, that one's right in the front. And then that one's almost right back where that one is. If not, it's shorter. I mean, so he's got a small feet.
I think it's shorter. I think it's shorter. And he has small feet, but he's only 5'9" to 5'10". It's not like we're dealing
Right.
with 6'2", but still, that's a short shoe size. It's not a perfect measurement there. We don't know whether he's a wide or a thin or whatever. I would say 7.5.
Yeah, maybe 7.5, 8. You know, that's what it says on the screen. 7.5 to 8 is 10 inches.
That's
So,
something though to me that when they were in that tent and they gave us the, 5'9" to 5'10" medium build, they really, to me, they should have just said, and here's his shoe size. Because somebody who might know him, especially as Bray points out, I honestly don't know one person with size 7.5 men's shoes. That's a smaller shoe size. I think 5'9" is pretty normal. Bray, what's your shoe size?
47. No, I'm just kidding. Like that 10, 9.5, 10, you know, but like you have, when you do, I mean, 7.5 and 8 is pretty small for a guy that's 5'9" or 5'10", you know.
I
I
agree.
mean, mine aren't even that big, you know, 5'9" to, 5'10". I mean, size 9 to 10. It just kind of depends on the shoes that you get. Isn't really that big either, but 7.5 and 8's really small. I mean, that's like,
It's really small for somebody that size, I think. I'm no shoe expert. I will look up the statistics on that, what the average male who's 5'9.5", or maybe Gray, if you have something pulled up to do it. I think that's just very interesting because it's just another clue that somebody who might recognize this person, that might be another thing. They might say, geez,
yeah.
looks like him.
I
What
mean,
is
one thing that's sort of interesting is like, if these are 10 inches and then there is grout, it's not clear enough, to really sit here and,
How do you know
but
those are 10 and not 12-inch tiles? That's the thing.
yeah, I just spent like a whole day I thought they were 12 inches at one point, and then there was a reason I settled on 10 because it matched the width on the map of how wide they said that area is inside there, you know. But I don't know 100% sure. It just seemed like the 10 inches made a lot more sense later on. Because oh yeah, I think it was because of the door width. All right, so let me throw up another image over here. Yeah, like this
The,
one,
the
for
tip,
example. So look at this right here. So looking at this right here, this is 1, 2, 3 tiles, right?
yep.
And then this one is about half, a little bit more than half. So that would make that 36 inches. And then maybe 37, 38, for the door width. And I think that's kind of normal, right? Let me see. Like what, front door house width. Let's see what it says.
And this is in the 70s too.
Yeah,
So
it's like 36, residential 36 inches. So, I mean, doesn't that just really work well? I mean, this is right on that side. So maybe an inch. And then over here, 6. And then you got 10, 20, 36, 37. You're right there.
yeah,
If it's 12, you got 36. And then you're at like 42 there. And then 43. So, I mean, it's possible it's a 42-inch door. And then maybe it's 12, but yeah. So if it,
you.
yeah.
A 36-inch door, and I was looking here, and the average shoe size for somebody who is 5'9" to 5'10" is typically 9.5 to 12.5.
Yeah,
That's a big range, but nevertheless, It's an odd size. Just something else odd about Porch Guy. Small feet, right eye that moves in, kind of a weird, wonky, almost a bow-legged stature. The
Yeah.
eyebrows, mustache up. Were there other things you noticed about his physical characteristics?
I just thought he looked, he didn't look incredibly thin or anything, just really sort of, average. And then obviously you have the mustache and so forth. But I just was going to show you this. I made this image off of taking the video, and whenever he wasn't there, I replaced it with the footage. So this is what it would look like if there wasn't a soul there. I mean, I don't know why. For me, it's a good base. I'm trying to build a model of this entire inside here, so I need it kind of blank. But you know, having something like this, you can do animations where you sort of use this as a mat and then have somebody coming in or somebody coming from this side, a car out of the street level that you want. So I might be able to do some cool stuff with this later. But it's interesting to see it without, like, almost as if before he got there. That's what it would have looked like.
So let's go back now to your map that we started with. And what we're trying to pose is this scenario. So again, if you could point out where her house is to give everybody their bearings, and
Yeah,
then
this is her house. I always rotate it to the front of the house. This is what it would look like, and it's hard to start over there.
yeah.
So I mean, that was north-south oriented. This is just looking at the front of the house.
So her front of the house is on the south side.
I think it's north or front. I mean, this is the front. Right now, it's north-south oriented. See that?
Oh, okay. So it is kind of
Yeah,
campus or house sense.
yeah. It's like northwest-ish. But you turn around. That's her front door there.
Okay.
So
So we see that, and now pan out from there a possible place because I think it's important though, Gray. We can tell that he comes from the garage side, but in your uh, layout there, you had him coming from the other side.
yeah, I mean, who knows if the guy when he walked over, came over here, kind of glanced through there, and then walked over there. Nobody knows. All I know is, right then he came in from right here.
Yeah.
That's it. But I had him park just randomly because this looks like a great place and it would avoid, like, you turn your lights off, a cop car drives by, they're not even going to see you there. So if we go back to, you want to see like this, right? So let's just play it at regular speed. So let's just say he walked over there, and then who knows? Maybe he went over there, and then he came back in. He's removing the camera at 147. Then he takes off. I don't know where he went. I'm just, you have to do something on the animation. So maybe if he was by himself, he would have made his way back to the car, and he's going to wait for 20 minutes or so to see if him, jiggling the camera or, setting off the motion sensors alerted anybody to call police, and he's going to wait. So I'm just put up here like he waits 15 or 20 minutes. Then, if he's by himself, he would get in the car and then drive it, and it probably even has the lights off. Who knows? I mean,
Definitely lights off. I'm just judging from something that would make sense.
yeah.
You're not
So then
going to go out there in a no at that time of night and have your lights on and be trying to kidnap somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So right there is where I think he would have parked, right at the base of the stairs.
See how
And
dark this looks, everyone?
yeah, and even this is kind of dark. Yeah. I just put a couple lights so you can see what we're doing. But anyways, maybe he gets out of the car and then goes around the back of the house. He could have went over to the right and avoided the camera on the garage that faces the camera on the pool house that faces the garage.
But
And then maybe,
take us to the 212 mark.
yeah, well, that's kind of where we're at right here. So right now he goes over the wall, and now it's 212, I think, is when that's when the entry to the house process began. I'm not, I don't know how another way to word it, but like at 2:12, a person is filmed in the backyard. Now we know that it's in the backyard, not inside the house, because the sheriff at one of the press conferences said, at 2:12, he said that the camera picked up a person on camera. And he goes, I mean, if it was, maybe it was an animal, I don't know, but it picks up a person. Well, let me just say this. There isn't a soul in the world, even subconsciously, if it was inside the house, would even think of saying, picked up an animal. You would just say, if it was at 2:12, a person was picked up on camera. The fact that he said it could have been an animal, and even the FBI agent behind him looked at him when he said that. He was like, "Oh shit, you just gave away." And so the camera is outside, and at 2:12, a camera picked up motion. There's two cameras. There's actually one right here on this corner that faces this way, and then there's one right there. And there's some, I have cool video of it. If you look at Google Earth right here, we can just look here. You can literally see the camera, which is crazy. It's right there. This little part that sticks out's the camera, and then that blackness there is the solar panel, believe it or not. Then the exact same thing exists right here. That darkness you see right there is a solar panel, even though it's hard to see here. I've already verified all this. And then there's a camera right there that films this direction. All right, so there's all kinds of things you can come up with, like, well, which camera was it? I think it was this one, and it picked him up, and then I think he went over and immediately broke the floodlights. And then right after that, he goes around the corner here. And I mean, the thing is that's throwing things off a little bit is this gate right here, according to Ashley Banfield, was propped open too. And I just saw on a video, I did a show where there was a potted plant that was empty, like literally just the pot of a plant was right there against the wall. And this gate right here swings towards the house. So like it literally swings in this direction. The hinge is on this building is what I'm saying. So it actually swings there. And there's a potted plant right there, which easily could have been used to prop that open. When he did that, I don't know. But then he goes around here. And then there's a door right inside there, which is here, underneath there. And that door swings open to the right. And it has a metal gate and a normal door. And those two were propped open as well with the pots underneath the deck there. So you just kind of have to wonder, like, well, what time, when it went off at 2:10, does it not record another motion? Or was there another motion recorded at 2:12, I meant. And then was there another one at 2:13 or 14? They don't say that. So it sounds like at 2:12 is when it detected somebody. So they must have done it like pretty quick, because it's not going to record. It records for like 30, 40 seconds. And I don't even think this person knew that camera was there in the backyard there.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, the FBI didn't know the camera was there. They searched that in total and then had to go back and redo another search to find the camera and to seize the car. So clearly, the site survey done by both the FBI, Pima County, and the bad guy wasn't good enough to notice this camera up top. So I just have a couple of comments on this. First of all, when it comes to this video footage, he definitely said person. And I agree with you. Sort of tried to do the back step, which we've seen Sheriff Nanos do all the time, because he realizes he probably wasn't supposed to say that. And News Nation actually did a great chart. I was going to pull it up, but I clicked too much. So maybe you have the chart. I think you mentioned you had the timeline chart. But clearly,
yeah, I have it.
It was a person. It wasn't a javelina, which I thought it might have been until he said person. And it makes a lot of sense because it is up inside here. So nevertheless, I agree with you, Gray, on on your analysis there. As far as that, I have a picture of that pot you're talking about and that door that swung open. She talks about, meaning Savannah, about or, or the back two back doors, or she doesn't say back doors. She said two doors open.
Yeah, like the doors were propped open,
Right.
right? Something like that.
And I think that in conjunction with, and I don't know if you have this photo, I have it if you don't, I can pull it up, but the photo of the antenna sticking out of the pocket.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I can just go right to the scene there.
Because it's clear in one of the pictures, it's sticking out of the pocket. This is not, and I don't know who really started the whole thing about jammers. This is no jammer, everyone. It for many reasons. Jammers jam. I've talked about this before. Pacemaker signals. They're not just Wi-Fi signals. Thank you. They operate on the same frequency. They don't look anything like this. You would have to have something so powerful, and it would have jammed his image. So, for
Yeah.
multiple reasons, this was no jammer. I don't know who started that rumor or how that got out there.
It sounds really cool. That's why.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
how it happened? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's just ooh a jammer. Everybody, he's got
Ooh,
a
cool. Yeah, no, it's not.
yeah.
And to have a two-way radio, and it's funny because I have Mac on a lot, who I love, Mac McCullum, Cheryl McCullum, and she's convinced that it's a single perpetrator, and I understand why. But my point is on this is that with a single perpetrator, you would not need a hot HT, a handy talkie. And in the Bureau, we use these all the time on missions, and I want to tell you why. Is because you can communicate without even talking. You can communicate by squelching, by just literally pressing the talk button, if you will, smashing it that once, twice, once for yes, once for no, multiple times for coming around. You don't even have to talk. Not to mention the wonderful part about not having to worry about cellular device being detected by law enforcement. So this guy is smart how he did this. Gray, do you agree?
Yeah, I think he was a lot smarter than people. I mean, I would even include myself when I thought originally that he was trying to just put the thing on the camera, but then I realized after a while, I don't know. I think we're judging this person based off something that might not even be. And then I changed to that he was using the, stem to like pull it off. One thing I thought was pretty interesting right here is, see, that's the same thing there. But look how high that is there. And then when you kind of watch how this, let me move it. See, like it's right there, and it kind of just boom, and then that's down there. So it's almost like, see how weird that is?
Which thing?
I mean, I'm talking about this right there. See that? Because I think that's the same, and I think it is. Like, it's really bizarre. And then, is that really this? Is that the same thing? Because it has the same shine going into the pocket. See that?
It's
like
just the light. The lighting changed. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you showed with the weeds.
Yeah, it's really. I'm talking. Yeah, like this little thing here, though. I think that's the antenna of the walkie-talkie, but it's weird how it got up so high. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but it sure looks like it. See that? It's like right there, and then boom, there. You see what I'm looking at?
Oh, I
It's
100%
interesting.
agree. And
Yeah.
again, if this were a jammer, just for those who, one last thing, her pacemaker signal that would have jammed that. It would have jammed his image. Do you have the image, Gray? If not, I can find it, of what a jammer does to your image.
I don't have an image of what what it does. Well, I saw a video once where it just makes it really distorted and like jumbly, and right.
Yeah, I'll show a picture. I have
Yeah,
a
why don't you show that? I don't have that.
because a jammer, his whole image would be distorted. And why would he be using a camera removal if he had a jammer? There's just nothing logical about him having a jammer. And they have multiple antennas typically. And You have would have to have such high quality. But anyway, we'll get off the scanner issue because I think we pretty much established that. But back to this whole
Well,
point
I was
of
just going to show you. Here is that camera on the pool house, though. It's right there. See, there's the. This is the one that faces the garage. This isn't the one on the side. You see how that's just clearly a camera, and then that's the same solar panel, and this is the
sorry.
like just fog lights or. Oh yeah, what are you looking at?
I'm
Oh
going to just put up the other camera. You're putting up this camera.
yeah, that one, and then that other one that you're showing is on the side of the house.
So this is the one we're talking about, solar panel. And then, oh, perfect. You can zoom
Solar
in.
panel, and then there's the camera. That's the one that faces. So if I go here and come around like this, it's right here, and that little darkness is the solar panel. And then see the little sliding glass door right there? That is right here down below. And I mean, I actually watched it in a video. I mean, I could play you the whole video where that's right there. So then there's another one around the side.
This is the one around the side because this is when the FBI comes back and yanks this one off the side. And this is the one that we're thinking might have captured the person coming around. If that could be porch guy, I still think there's more than one person that was involved. It's just so hard to do a mission like this to keep control of somebody, even an 84-year-old woman. And believe me, she could have been knocked out, but from the source reporting tells us there was no sign of a struggle. When I hear signs of a struggle, what I think of is blood, something to show blood on the inside. And again, if we're to believe this, the source reporting, they say no struggle. And then further, typically when I hear that, I think of lamps being on the ground and all of this. But it tells me, Gray, and I don't know if you agree, this was a quick mission. This wasn't 41 minutes. There's a confusion because
Yeah.
it's 2:12 time to the time they went in and then snagged her.
I think it's 212. Like I think the window of like attack time, for lack of a better term, is 212 to 228. That's the like the maximum window. Now it could be that at 212 they set off motion and sort of stayed out of it took them a while to get to Nancy in the home. I don't know, but it seems like they just got her right out of bed. And they know exactly what time that is because of her pacemaker on that unit in the house is going to be wildly active compared to her sleeping mode. So as soon as she confronted, if somebody was in her house wearing a balaclava, it probably freaked her out, and then her heart rate's going to be really racing. They know exactly what time that is. And then when she's 10 to 30 feet away from the base unit, her cell phone reported that she was no longer connected to her pacemaker no longer connected to the base unit anymore at that point, and she could still be in the house at 228. That's the thing. Doesn't mean that she's being moved down because the front door is already like 30, 40, 50, feet away from the base unit that would be in her room on the side table there with her phone probably and her watch just sitting there. She's just sleeping. And that's why you've heard that they didn't seem like there's anything going on, that anything happened in the house other than the fact that there's blood at the front door, inside and then outside, right? I mean, that's what's been reported anyway.
But again, when I looked back at that report, and I really want everybody to look at the person who said this behind the veil. We can't see who it is. They're still with the department. They're afraid to get outed, that they'll get in trouble, which they would get in trouble because, again, you have to ask, what is the motivation for somebody behind a badge to come out with information that could compromise a case? What is their motivation? Are they getting paid? Are they angry? Is it political motivation? I mean, I think we can all see what the motivation is. So I always caveat all of this stuff with this came from a source. And this source, when I heard him talk, listen, go back and listen. This is what the source says. Words to this effect. He said, I heard from somebody else who knows. I mean, it's so far removed, you know.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, I don't know, but Ashley Banfield has a source that she, as in a department, she says the same thing. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but she was told by that person that inside the house, it looked like she just got out of bed and went somewhere, except for the fact that there was blood at the front door and then outside. That's what she said on one of her podcasts. What do you think of that?
And I always say this. I mean, the reporters in this case are doing a great job. They're working hard, and they have these sources and so. But it doesn't mean these sources are right.
Right. Yeah.
And it's the reporter's job to say what is being said, but it doesn't mean it's right. I just have a lot of
Yeah.
everybody on my channel knows. When I hear it's from a source, I take it with
A grain of salt. Yeah. I mean, it's just like I agree. I mean, I do the same thing. A lot of stuff turns out to be red herrings that that you hear somebody report, and then later on it's not true. But usually when law enforcement puts something out, this case is a little different, but like when law enforcement puts something out, you can generally trust that. You got to go with it because that's a fact that they're putting out. Now, sometimes that's not even correct. So, this case is a little special because, of the sheriff, and it just seemed like it was a little out of his realm of, here's what I hope. I hope he solves the damn thing. I hope like in 2 weeks, the sheriff goes, we got him and we had him the whole time and you guys can just shut the hell, that would be amazing. Right. But I don't know if that's going to happen.
well, I don't think that's going to happen. But nevertheless, I want to go back and show the audience again that space that you identified. Did you see any other spaces where it would be convenient to stage what I call stage a vehicle?
That's the most convenient one. I know that there's other. See, what I was trying to look for was one off of the main road in front of her house. Because if cops show up, they're going to be right there, right? They're going to just be buzzing around right here, pull up to her home. You wouldn't want to be parked right there or right there. But, around this corner over here, and especially right against there, you can't really be seen. And, you could be off of one of these other roads over here, perhaps, It could also be that the person just kept driving around. If there was another person, by yourself, you have to park, obviously. If there's another person, they could have just been driving around and but I don't know. That'd be kind of weird, like to be surveilling while driving, because a cop would go, "Oh, are you the guy that was, your lights are on, you're moving around." They might just pull you over. Hey, we had a report. So it seems more likely that the person would want to park with their lights off, right, and just sort of, either if it's one person, you're not going to have your lights on. A second person, you're not going to have your lights on. You might barely have them on just to get to the house, but you turn them off for sure when you parked in her driveway. But I don't even know if you'd ever even want them on because it would alert possibly dogs or neighbors would see the light. I mean, most people aren't awake at that hour. But
Ray, all I can do, and in all these cases, is look at past cases. Past cases are predictors of other actions. Not always, because this is clearly a huge outlier. But it would not make sense necessarily to stay parked in front of your house where you're committing a crime for over 40 minutes. In other words, if we're counting the time frame from 147 to 228,
yeah,
let's be clear about that too. That is a disconnect. That's a disconnect, if you will, of the pacemaker from the Apple Watch. That can be 6 to 12 inches normally, but you and I had this discussion offline, Gray. We have read it can go further than that. She could have been in another room as she's being carried out. But logically, a person would not want to stay in this house. They would want to get their subject and they would want to leave as quickly as possible.
yeah. I think what I've been saying, and I think you've probably been saying this, but I think This person went there. Their mission was to remove Nancy Guthrie from the home. They removed the camera in the front of the house because their car is going to be parked there.
Yep.
How they got into the back of the home, whether there's another person that was driving the car, etc. It'd be great to know all that information, what law enforcement thinks. But, I still don't know. Like, I think it's a ransom that went, like a abduction for ransom that went wrong. That's my theory. Okay. I don't know if that's it, though. That's just, it seems the most likely out of everything. Now, is there, whatever the real reason is, that might lead to finding somebody, unless it's what I just said. That one would be hard to find somebody because then it's a random person likely that would be abducting her, and they took, got a balaclava on, the gloves, etc., and they just got her out of there, and she could be anywhere at this point. So I don't know the actual why 100%. I just think it was likely a abduction for ransom that went wrong. What do you think?
I think it's an abduction. I certainly don't think it's a robbery. The robbery thing for me from day one was out.
Yeah.
No burglars ever go with a full backpack to rob. You don't rob at night. You don't want people to be there. You want to take small items, put them in your bag, and leave. Or break into a business during the day. So robbery gone wrong. To me, that is an absolute no-go. Plus, this is not the house you would pick. It's so far off. It's so dark. You'd be fumbling around even figuring out how to get inside. This was planned January 11th, likely January 24th, January 31st. And then, of course, the mission was the morning of the 1st. And this is a planned abduction. My only issue, Gray, is because I had that exact same hypotheses, Occam's razor. This is the problem. When Sarah Guthrie said, and I believe law enforcement 100% agrees from their actions, that the first ransom note.
Yeah, first two. Yeah.
Did I say one? Sorry.
Yeah.
The first two ransom notes, the one that they got on the 3rd, and they gave them to the 5th for a soft, issue. And then on the 5th, and then I think it went to, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 9th for the hard issue. In other words, on the 5th, we don't know the if then, but it was something bad. If you don't, something bad is going to happen to her, but we're not going to kill her. And then the if then for the 9th was we're going to kill her. If we don't get the money, the $6 million, we're going to kill her. Because then the next thing you know, Savannah is saying, listen, we know she's dead. We just want her body, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I think that Savannah's second Instagram video was saying, hey, we understand that our mother's dead. We'd like to have her body back so that we can celebrate her life with her body here. And we can, and that's the only way that we're going to get peace. Okay. So because we believe so strongly in this, we're willing to pay for you just telling us where we can find her. That's what the second one was saying. And everyone since then, the last one was very complimentary to that. The last one she gave, it was almost identical, just in a longer form. So I think that those first two must have given her, one of those two gave her some indication that her mother wasn't alive. Maybe they never could prove that she was alive. And, I don't know. And it turns out the FBI apparently, according to, the guy, the TMZ dude, Harvey, whatever the hell his name is. Yeah, he was saying that that they can't track the Bitcoin. They thought they were able to do stuff like that, but they can't. So that might be why they didn't pay this secondary person, because there's no way to track the person. But why not why not risk the?
That is just inaccurate. I mean,
yeah, that's what they said. That's what he said.
It's impossible to track the Bitcoin right now. When you could track the Bitcoin, and I'm going to have a Bitcoin expert on.
When they get the money out?
Yes, when it's turned from Bitcoin to money to becoming an actual usable whether it's pesos, rubles, whatever it might
But
be.
what if you keep it as Bitcoin and just use your Bitcoin wallet to buy things? But I guess that would also show somewhere, right? Like,
Oh yeah. No matter
yeah.
what, it's when you take it out. And that's my point. If obviously the person is completely incognito, right? They're Clark Kent. I mean,
Hmm.
they can have any name, but eventually it will be, and that's why I say spend the 34,000. Wait until we see the price tag on this investigation. It's going to be millions because of the money.
Yeah, I'm just like, why don't you just send the 35 to the dude? If you lose it, you lose it. You're going to spend 35 in the next 2 days. Okay, just spend 35. See if he responds with the correct information, and then you got something. If you don't, maybe you'll find him another way at some other point when he uses it, like you were just saying. Okay, but I don't know. That just seems like a no-brainer to me to pay that to that the guy that's been constantly writing TMZ. It's also, I mean, what do you? That's the one element. Like, you ever notice in this case that every time you have a theory, there's always something that just kind of okay, that doesn't work. Because when you do a ransom, why do you send it to TMZ originally? Was it just because you didn't hear from the first one who didn't make it public? Why did you want it public? Usually these ransoms are quiet, right? Behind the scenes situations. Isn't that correct?
This was never for money. That's my opinion. This
Yeah.
was never
Okay.
about money.
So what do you think the reason is then?
This is about absolute torture for this family. They meant
Okay.
to kill her. They knew she would die. She's an 84-year-old woman with heart issues. I doubt if they even made it out of the house with her. I think, you know, I doubt it. I think they threw her in the trunk, gagged, masked, probably knocked out, and she was deceased that night, likely. There was no proof of life to be had, and then they tormented the family with those first two requests because you're
Yeah.
pointing out why ransoms don't work like that ever.
Yeah. So you think it's like some sort of I mean, that's one of the theories that we've put out there. It's just I don't know. I mean, it's so you're saying like a revenge of some stalker type person that wants to hurt Savannah.
Well, I'm not even necessarily saying Savannah. We don't know. Most likely Savannah, but I put forth yesterday just talking about the different possibilities of motive behind this. Nancy was a very strong woman, and she was very politically strong. And so the climate we live in right now with politics is insane. So it can't be dismissed. The Bureau maybe has dismissed it by now, but it just can't be dismissed that possibly Nancy was the true target. And they also hate the family. Could have been Savannah, but and it could be somebody else in the family. But I think what's clear, Ray, this family is targeted and hated. And I tell you what, I hope they all have the most optimum security measures they can have, all of them, their kids, their spouses, because by these, and I think the last four notes are just part of those scams that come in to the missing relatives. But I want to get them off. To me, it's worth 34,000 to have that breadcrumb to put them behind bars.
Yeah, I totally. And maybe that person's just a scammer too. And then it gets that one out of the picture. You know what I mean?
It
But
does.
why not? Why not try it? It's like you're casting a line out there. There might be a big fish right there.
I agree. And the other thing is, Gray, that really bothers me is that uh, the modus operandi of the notes are very similar. And that's early on. I think the first note of the second state, the guy that's like, yeah, I know who did it. I know where her body is. Or I think it started with, at first though. Yeah, I think it was, I know where it's her body. And then later it's in Sonora, whatever. But how interesting it is that the scammers, there's Nigerian scammers, there's all these. I mean, I need to feature this case that was in Fort Worth that reminds me of this part in terms of the scamming. But that they also decided to send letters to these media outlets, that they also decided to use Bitcoin and give a Bitcoin address. that they seem to talk almost alike in terms of what Harvey Levin says the notes say, like how they, you're hurting my feelings because you're saying I'm a scammer. I don't know if you heard him talk about
Yeah, that was weird when he, yeah, that was,
personal. Are they? This is starting to sound like the Patsy Ramsey stuff, where it's so
right.
personal. It's Patsy Ramsey.
And what's weird about it, like he could come forward anonymously and get $1 million. That's
Well,
one of the things too.
phony because
Yeah,
he knows that the bureau would look into what they have to say, and it'd never pass muster. So they're scammers. But the question is it part of the same scam?
yeah, yeah. Could be. Let's see.
So
Um,
go ahead.
have you ever seen some like these pictures? Right. What do you think of these? These are right away. I don't know if you want to switch back over to my.
Yeah, I'm going to switch back over. I have to take mine out and go to you now. Let me switch you back in. All right, you're back.
Yeah, I mean, originally there was these. Like this was like the first day the drone was out there. I don't know if these are, tire marks, but
Tracks. I thought
no,
it was a trash can.
yeah, it could be. Except, yeah, I don't know where the. Yeah, it could be trash cans. But there seems like there's even marks right over here too, right there. I was kind of thinking, but it's also then it curves too much right there. I don't know. It's hard to say. And then there's that really deep one in the back, right there. See that was definitely her tire tracks. Must have rained or something at that time to make something like that, I guess. But um, so those are there, and again, you can even see the camera there, and the gate's open, and it swings open to the left, so that direction.
Yeah.
So there's that. This one has kind of like both of them. I mean, it'd be interesting if that's what those were, but it seems kind of like it doesn't. The indentation isn't in the middle; it's on the edges. So it kind of does seem more like something dragged right there, doesn't it? Like
Yeah,
you were
I
saying.
mean, that's what I thought. It never, I think she was carried out. She's 150 pounds, 84-year-old woman who couldn't walk well, couldn't even walk to the mailbox normally, did on occasion, from what Savannah said, was in severe, extreme pain, and shoeless, by the way, everybody. So I think they picked her up and drug her out of there and threw her in the trunk and left.
But did they parked right here though, right?
Right, I agree with you.
Yeah, and then so they probably did drive around like I have it in the. Well, I guess we never finished my
Yeah, finish
animation.
yours. Let's finish up with your, because I love this idea, because I agree with you. I really just think that they brought the car around later. It's possible they could have stayed parked there the whole 41 minutes. Possible.
Yeah, or well, this isn't the 41 though, so this would be like 2:10, and then the person goes around, and then at 2:12 is seen hopping over. So this would be like it's there for 18 minutes, not 40 something in my scenario. Like if you were by yourself, right? Because he pulls back in there after waiting for 20 minutes. So 47 plus 20 is 207. Then he drives in, probably parks, let's say 210. Then gets out of the car, like I was saying, then goes around the back over here. I mean, we don't know if that's how he went. However, he got back there. The camera right here picked him up. He could have came in from over here, off to the side, around like that, but whatever. And then eventually he goes in, and then this is before, I made this animation before we even knew about this other door that was over here. And so then he goes into this door, props the doors open, props the gate open over there, and then he's inside the house. And then now we can see where the car's parked. Now in your case, you probably have one extra sphere. I have two spheres here, so there you go. Nancy's the one in green, so you would have like two people carrying him out, putting her into this vehicle, and then just driving away. And there's no surveillance cameras. Probably didn't have the lights on for a while. I guess it was a full moon or something that night, and then you just got the hell out of there. But it'd still be hard to drive. I can tell you this, that this person had been there multiple times. And you remember the Idaho 4 case?
Of course.
Yeah, obviously. It's kind of a dumb question, but I've been there. I went there 3 times, and one of the times, the first time I went there, I was trying to recreate his route behind there, and I couldn't do it, man. I get lost every time, and I'd stop, look at a map, or and I go, okay, right there, and I'm just trying to go the same streets that he was on behind the house on Walanta Drive back there. And then after about the third time, it was just memory. I just boom, and then I can go there right now and do the whole thing. I guarantee I could go there, drive all the way around, do the whole thing, because I've done it so many times that I know it. This would be even more necessary here because it's pitch black and the roads are just they don't go anywhere. I mean, it's crazy. Like you're right here, and look at this one. It goes like her house is right there. It drives up here, and you're sort of in nebulae. But you find this one road here. You turn right. Now you can get to the main road. So you'd have to like have been there and driven around, or be really familiar with the area to feel comfortable enough to abduct somebody and get out on a smooth path that you want to do. That's my opinion on that. I don't know what you think, but
No, I agree. They knew exactly where they were going. They're very familiar with this house. They knew Nancy and this family. They are intimately angry, and I think it. I think it seems personal to me because, and I say that only because of now knowing that the ransom notes, the 2 ransom notes, are connected. Because there's no reason to publicly bring those out to just torture this family in that way. It doesn't make a lot of sense. In other words, they did everything not to get paid with those notes. Does that make sense? To go to the media,
yeah. It doesn't seem.
involved.
Well, she wasn't alive. Well, it could be though that they intended to have her be alive, but she's so frail. They didn't realize how frail, even though she's strong, but her condition isn't very good. Like, she's on blood thinners, her heart's not doing well, so something really could have like taken her and could have killed her at that time. She could have died from something. So then it would be, well, then why are you sending notes? See, my thing was that they were trying to get money. She died, and they were trying to get money anyways. But then they went, "Oh, screw this." They realize now that since she's not alive, they don't even want. They just want to wash their hands of this because in the transfer of the money, they think maybe they could get caught, and then now they're going to have the death penalty on the table, right? If just a regular abduction and the person's still alive, you get caught, you might get 10, 15 years, something like that. That's something you might risk for the reward, but then now there isn't one. She's not alive, and you still want to get money, and then if you get caught, you're absolutely screwed. You're either death penalty or life without parole. So that would be, but then why, I don't know why you sent it to TMZ, it's like.
Great, but the big thing is here, before we knew that 2 ransom notes had a nexus to the abductors, before we knew that, I was 1,000% into this exact philosophy, and a planned abduction, knowing that her daughter's worth 40 million, gone bad, and they aborted. Abort. She died. Get rid of the body and go into hiding and hope you're never found, right? But that isn't what they did. Now we know on the 3rd they sent that note, and then another one, I believe it was on the 5th. So why do that other than to torture the family?
The first ransom note came out on the 2nd. I actually looked that up.
No, the 3rd.
Yeah, well,
On the
I'm
3rd.
pretty sure. I just looked it up the other day. It was crazy.
Thought it was the 3rd.
Well, you might be right. Let me see. Well, the first is the day early in the morning, right? So then it was the full through the night, and then the next morning it came out on the 2nd. Because I actually just did a show where I was like, man, how quickly. That's what made me think. We did a whole show on the validity of the ransom notes, and or it was part of a show. I don't know if it was the whole show, but I was just thinking, so when was the first note? And then when we looked it up, it came up to the 2nd. And I was thinking, man, that's so early for them to have known anything special in the letter, that only the killer would know. Because remember in that press conference earlier in the day on Tuesday, or was it third? Was it what? When was the press conference? The first one, wasn't that
Okay,
third?
so this does say to KOLD, it was on the 2nd,
Yeah, KOLD. Yeah,
KOLD the 2nd, then another one on the 5th, then another one on the 9th. Wait a minute, that can't be right.
yeah. That doesn't make that first two sound pretty
But
good.
but the other one, but wait a minute. And it's funny because I'm getting ready to do a whole show just on this. But TMZ didn't get theirs the same time. I believe it was over 12 hours later. So I bet
Hmm.
you anything, that's where our discrepancy is. You're right, KOLD on the 2nd. And then I think TMZ.
Yeah, but it's interesting that they got it on the second, right? Because that sort of eliminates a lot of the news that was out that might have mentioned something that they could have put in the letter to make them seem legit. You're talking about like the next day. There was hardly anything out there, so that's pretty interesting.
Okay, that's right. Okay, we're both right. The
Yeah,
second
yeah. The TMZ was when the next day. Yeah.
and TMZ was April 3rd. So that was the confusion. That's our confusion there. So you bring up such a great point now because this note was right after the kidnapping. But still, there's no reason to go to the media. And already
Hmm.
law enforcement and was crawling all over this case. You
We
leave it.
were we were even talking about that exact thing. I think it's like you go, did he send it to the first places, thinking that locally they would have made some buzz, but he didn't even know they got it because he probably sent it to that station specifically said that they have an anonymous tip line that you could send it in. So he probably sent it that way, and he didn't hear anything because they did the right thing and just got a hold of the FBI, right? He didn't hear anything, and then he's like, okay, I got to get to somebody. This is a big case. Who's going to say something? And so then you go, well, why do you want that then? Why did you want TMZ to somebody to finally say something? Because TMZ doesn't have the same morals as like the local news channels that want to do the right thing. They just want to get, oh, boom, I got the ratings out. Look at this, look at this. So they're going to come forward with the fact that they got a letter. And so then well, why did they do that? And maybe, do you have an answer for that? Like, what do you think?
Well, I'm more looking at, yeah, I do have an answer. I literally, it makes no sense to me other than to torture the family. I don't
Yeah.
think it was about money. I just can't make anything else line up. I'm an Occam's razor like you. The scenario makes so much sense. Planned abduction, abduction goes wrong, abort. But then the next day you send that out knowing Nancy's not alive and then continuing it later for a second note. It's just seems so cruel and not like you want to get money.
Yeah, it's just like I remember saying that this case it became interesting because it was Savannah Guthrie's mom. That's what right. Everybody was like, ooh, but now forget take Savannah Guthrie, everybody out of the case. It's incredibly interesting just by itself. If it was just somebody named Susan Smith, well, not maybe not the Susan Smith, but but somebody, yeah, just anybody. It's crazy. It's a crazy case. I don't know if it would be as big, but it would be probably pretty big in some areas in the true crime community for sure, because it's wild. I mean, it's just so crazy to have somebody sitting in their home, removed in the middle of the night in this day and age with the cameras and all this stuff, and this person just got the hell out of there, and we don't know where she is at all.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest reason that it, from the first, how I heard about the case was Cuomo's staff and said, hey, listen, Savannah Guthrie's mom has been missing, but most likely we're not going to have you on because she probably wandered off. Because that's what a lot of 84-year-olds do if they have dementia. So that was the first kind of news out there. And so I immediately started looking, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman is not having problems with dementia. This woman is absolutely on her game. And then, of course, it spun out from there. But I knew right away it was foul play. There was no doubt because of what
Yeah.
the next day he said. I put a homicide detective on it. Here's your homicide sergeant with 6 months experience, but he's
And
lying.
usually when you see something like somebody leaves their, you have their phone and their watch, that's really a bad sign a lot of times. When somebody disappears and you got their phone and their everything's sitting at home in their purse and their wallet and everything. That's just almost never good in that scenario.
It's never good.
Hey, do you want to go over the that one portion I was telling you about the camera itself and the written over
Oh,
thing?
yes. So I asked Gray as we were chatting, I thought this was really important. A lot of people have a lot of questions about how Pima County came on and said we can't get anything from the camera. You remember that. And then the FBI came back, and on the 10th, the FBI had something from the camera. Gray's going to go
Yeah.
into how this was.
Yeah. So what's interesting? I mean, I just looked up about like I asked. I think it was a Gemini or whatever the Google version of ChatGPT, but it came up with it says. So yeah, it says yes, your Nest camera will keep functioning and recording. This is if you didn't pay your bill, but with significant limitations on what it saves. When your Nest Aware subscription expires, the camera reverts to a free tier that primarily focuses on live monitoring. All right, so this is how it works. It has 3-hour event history. Instead of 30 or 60 days of video history, you will only have access to a 3-hour rolling window of event video history. So that does not mean that it could store 3 hours. That's if there's 3 hours of motion, but it doesn't matter. That's not relevant. It's just a rolling 3 hours. So it's just sliding by like this. So let's say you have 10 seconds of video at 1 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, as it slides by, you can no longer watch that anymore. But during that whole 3 hours, you could watch it, and any subsequent videos as it's rolling by, you could watch, then they're deleted, and they're sitting there waiting to be written over again by another motion. See, it's crazy. It says you will lose all 24/7 continuous video recording if you haven't paid your bill. Any footage older than 3 hours will be deleted from the cloud, and you cannot go back and review it. So that's the whole rolling video. So even though it was deleted, it's still there, and that's what Google went and recovered. And apparently, if there's other motions, it might write over the top of the same video segments or whatever you call it, and then they can still grab the portions that it didn't write over again. That's why it may be why there's little jumps around, because those portions were written over. And it says what you can still see, you can still view live streaming, receive motion sound alerts, so you'll still get alerts. And you can save, download any clips you created while the subscription was active. So you can only download ones that were from before when your subscription was active, but you can still review a rolling 3 hours of video. So let's say at 1:47, when that guy was filmed on that camera, at 4:47, that video is then deleted. And it just keeps rolling by. But if there was more footage at 2:20, like even the one at 2:12, right? So at 5:12, that's gone. And any bird flies by, it rewrites, it might write over some of that. It's pretty interesting, I think.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, and everything they had to do to get that. And I still think Porch Guy will save the case. I don't think DNA, you and I both talked to Dr. Fitzpatrick, and I just think there's no way, because of all the mixed profiles, that they're going to get
Okay. Hey, let me ask you something. Are you the one that came up with Porch Guy?
I
Because I think I heard it from you first. Now it seems to be the term, man. You guys, listen. You guys got to come up with a little something a little more nefarious. Remember Bridge Guy? I mean, really? This guy, he killed people. It's like, okay, Bridge Guy, just some dude on a bridge, and then now it's Porch. I get it. It's like playing off a Bridge Guy, and now it's Porch Guy. But we got to have something a little more nefarious sounding,
Yeah.
But it's too late. It's too late. That's what he is.
He's Porch Guy. But nevertheless, that's funny you said that. Next time, well, hopefully there won't be a next time, not a case like this. Final question for you, Greg. Do you think this case will be solved? And give me a timeline.
God, man, I do think it's going to be solved. And how about within the next 3 months? How about
Wow, you're
that?
freaking out a little because
Okay.
when this first happened, I said it'll be solved within 6 months that the FBI took it over. And
Oh, there
so
you go.
now we're only like a month apart. We'll see.
Yeah, well, I'm within your 6. I'm at 5, but I actually thought it was going to be sooner. I was hoping this was going to be sort of like the Idaho 4 case, where remember how everybody was just trashing the local law enforcement. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. The FBI doesn't seem to know what they're doing, and then boom, like 3 weeks later, they've already had this guy under their nose the whole time. I don't feel the same way in this one that they're onto something because of the reporting that people are doing. But you know what? That same reporting was happening during Idaho 4. What do you think about that? I think
I
it's
I mean, this is the problem. You have sheriffs and or chiefs that are not public communicators. That's not what they do for a living, and they're not good at it. And so the mixed messaging in both of these cases was a hot mess. And you saw what Chief Fry did. He got $1 million grant. I don't know if you remember this, to get a public sport, a speaking company, and then they handled everything after that. Things went much smoother for him, but he never survived. He retired and then he ran for sheriff. Don't hold me to it, but I think he lost like 80-20, and he was very humble about it. Now he isn't even working in the state. He's out of state now and has a 6-person department.
that's too bad.
Well, yeah, it is too bad because I actually really like Chief Fry. He just made so many speaking errors, but I thought he really did the best. He got the FBI in that night.
I thought that one of their biggest things is how they didn't clear people quick enough. Like
Yeah.
the boyfriend and everything. They already knew what was going on, and they just sort of waited and waited and waited, and then they finally started. We don't think these people are involved. Okay, great, but and so there's a lot of people, even to this day, that keep getting attacked over and over and over and over again because of those initial sort of suspicious, almost like an innuendo by not clearing them.
Yeah. No, I loved when they started coming out and do the weekly. We were all posted there. Okay, it's time for the weekly cleared post, right? And they would just keep adding names and adding names. Um, so yeah, I was so glad that Nanos came out at least early, even though people don't believe it, and put in writing. It's hard to believe what comes out of his mouth because he's always doing
Right?
side stuff. But
Yeah.
what he writes, typically, at least when it came to clearing the family, I just know it's something that big, the Bureau would have backed it.
Right. We'll call him. Let's switch it over to Balaclava guy. No, I'm just kidding.
Balaclava, yes.
No, no. Yeah, it's not. I get what you're saying. It's a location. Bridge guy,
Everybody,
porch guy.
everybody would call him baklava, and they'd wonder if it was a dessert. It's too confusing.
Yeah, probably.
Let me get you up on screen and get this out so I can properly say thank you and for joining the channel and for all of your animations. It really helped me just to see it there as we spoke about it. And you do such good work with these animations, and so I do want to thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me on. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime when we get some more information and we can put it all together and map it all out and tell the full story. There you go.
Well, great. Thank you again, and I love the bow tie.
All right, thanks.
Everybody, that was Gray Hughes. Gray Hughes Investigates. And again, I remember when he did the Linda Lane video. That's when I first kind of knew about him, which was the kind of the famous at the Idaho 4, the video of the U-turns. And that's what he was talking about, that he actually went there and did it. And I really have a lot of respect for people who are willing to pay their own way, go out and try to figure it out. I was willing to have my husband put me in a trash bag and to put me in the front trunk, which is called a frunk, of a Tesla, to show that there was no way that poor Celeste Rivas was not cut into pieces to fit in there, that it was physically impossible. But I really appreciate that kind of investigative work. Actually, I call it brick and mortar. And yes, we're going to have certain hypotheses, and we pass some of those along here. I'm not sure we actually got anywhere with the exact hypothesis, but to be clear, for me, it's not a one person job. And I think this is about far more than just a ransom now, based on the fact that, and only on this fact, that the two ransom notes are related. As far as the first and second ransom note and the remaining ransom notes, are they all related? All I can tell you is they have the same MO. And that was done fairly early, before I think the person who came in after and said, yeah, I know what happened, blah, blah, blah. That was before that person would have known that the Bureau would have such a hard time backtracking it. And I've talked about that before too, for those of you who saw that live, how that essentially you can get a burner phone. And I don't mean going to Best Buy and buying a phone. That's not the way to get a good burner phone. You have to get it in cash at a garage sale or pick it up at a thrift store. And then you have to download a VPN on it, a VPN that makes it untraceable. And then you have to get a Wi-Fi service, or I'm sorry, an email service that's out of the country, so that they're not bound by the rules of subpoena or of production via search warrant, because they're powerless. And then finally, the last thing you have to do is you have to send your Wi-Fi emails from a public domain. Sit outside a Starbucks in your car. So this is the reason I just want to make it clear that it's not that the FBI isn't working at this and trying to get this done. It's that there's a lot of obstacles, and I'm not an IT person. But logically, those were the steps I would take. And if Porch Guy is as savvy as he seems to be, because he seems to be doing a lot right to evade detection, I think that's where a lot of the problems lie. I want to thank each of you. I kept you way past an hour. I feel bad that I kept our guest past an hour. I try to be respectful of everybody's time. I want to thank you all again. I appreciate it. I love to do collabs. I think it's great in the true crime community. I always say this. I never have understood why true crimers with the same goals and intentions of helping find the missing, of helping bring light to cases through our own experiences, or in his case, his talents, right? His talents of video imaging and pulling things and doing creative things from words he has to making it come alive on the screen. We should all work together as a community. So I'm a big believer in that. We're not a hate channel, that's for sure. And I really love and appreciate each of you. So thank you so much. And until next time, may justice be served for the missing, all the missing, and for the Guthrie family.